Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'll be sharing with you a requested tutorial from my group on how to cut this stylish princess dart off shoulder blazer blouse, and this dress is from Be Unique Wears. So if you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, please hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So to start, first of all, you go ahead to mark about 3 to 4 inches in front, which will serve as the blazer allowance to lap over to the other side. Now, this is an off shoulder. You want to determine where it will start. So I placed my tape -5 on top, and I marked my shoulder to bust line, shoulder to under bust line, shoulder to waistline, and for my blouse length, I'm using 22 inches. So my shoulder to bust line is 9 inches, my shoulder to under bust line is 12 inches, my shoulder to waistline is 17 inches, my blouse length is 22 inches. I'll place my tape again at -5, and I'll go ahead to repeat and mark all this out. So I'll go ahead and I will label this as shoulder to bust, under bust, waistline, and blouse length. So after I'm done marking this, I'll go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2. So my shoulder is 7 inches. At that my shoulder point, I'll come in by 1.5 inches. So all this measurement is starting after this line. That is the 4 inches line we have before marking out our measurements. So next, you want to go ahead to take that line all the way down and you rule out a straight line. After marking this out, you want to go ahead and find your chest line. Place your tape at that -5 inches. Now, there are two ways of doing this. Find your chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and mark, which will give me 7 inches on this point. Or you're going to divide your armhole into 2. My armhole circumference is 16 inches divided by 2. I have 8. So I will mark my 8 inches. So I'm using my bust circumference divided by 2 for this particular pattern, and I will rule this out and clean out that straight line I have underneath it. Now I'll go ahead and place my curved rule touching the new chest line and that 5.5 inches line and connect. So after I'm done connecting on this part, the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to start marking my dart. To mark that, I'll be marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 3.5 inches. That is 7 inches divided by 2. I'll have 3.5 inches, which I'll go ahead to mark. And I'll draw out a straight line all the way down. After I'm done ruling this out, you want to mark your dart intake. So there are two ways of marking this. Either by marking 1 inch on both sides, or you're going to mark ½ inch in front and mark 1.5 on the other side because the bust is fuller at the side. Or for someone that has a bigger bust, you can mark 1 inch here and take 2 inches at the other side. So for this pattern, I just made use of the normal dart of 1 inch at both sides. So my bust is not that big, so it won't really affect my pattern that much. So I'll just go ahead and draw out a straight line. So after I'm done marking this now, you want to go ahead to connect this all the way to the bust. I'll connect from the bust to the under bust, and I'll go ahead to repeat this at the other side of my pattern. So this is what I have, and I'll go in with my marker and go ahead to outline this. So the next step now is to go ahead to work on the upper part. I'll come down by 2 inches at this point, but first I'll measure what I have, which is about 5 inches. Now I'll just come down by 2 inches from the upper part this way, and I'll go ahead to connect it down to my bust point. You can also go ahead and use 2.5 inches to do that. So I'll go ahead to connect. After I'm done connecting, I'll go ahead to mark ½ inch on both sides of this pattern. Go ahead to connect it all the way back on both sides and blend it out. So I'll go ahead and I will outline this way. So after I'm done outlining, the next step now is to come out by 1 inch at the lower part. That is that intake of ½ inch we marked. I'll go ahead to readjust it to the lower part so that the side will be meeting the center, and I'll go ahead to reconnect my armhole and blend in my dart. So this part is a bit pointy. I'll just go ahead to try and blend it in. So next is to insert your measurement. I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, measure this dart intake here, replace and add my sewing allowance. So next, I'm going to mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. Mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake and add my sewing allowance. Here, I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace it and add my sewing allowance. So that is my blouse length. That is where I'll be inserting my hip circumference. Next, I'll just go ahead and reconnect all my pattern, and after reconnecting, this is what I have. I'll come down at least by 1.5 inches and draw out the neckline there. So I'll just draw out this button we have here to indicate where you'll be adding your button to your dress. At the lower part after the waistline, I'll come in by 1 inch and I'll be connecting it this way. This is what I have. Now you want to go ahead and measure the neckline of your dress. So what I have here is 9 inches. So you'll be using that 9 inches to measure out for your collar. So I'll just go ahead and cut out the rest of my pattern. So at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. And after cutting out, we'll be moving over to the back pattern. So for the back pattern, this is what I have. I've marked out all my basic measurement just like we did for the front. The only difference is that I don't have any allowance in front of the dress. So I still marked -5 inches. At the neckline here, I'll go in by that same 5.5 inches, which is your shoulder divided by 2, and you go in by 1.5 inches or 1 inch. Now, I'll also place back my tape and mark that neckline we use, the chest line we use, which is 8 inches. After that, you want to go ahead and mark your bust circumference divided by 4 and you will connect. So after I'm done connecting this way, I'll draw out this part. Next, I'll start inserting my measurement. I'll mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2 and I'll be taking this all the way to the lower part of my pattern. After this, I'll just go ahead and place my ruler and I'll be drawing out a straight line. So you want to go ahead and mark ½ inch at the lower part of your pattern. And you're going to come down by 1 inch from your bust. So when I was marking this, I mistakenly used my under bust as my bust, but I went ahead to reconnect it. After connecting this, I'll go ahead to extend my dart lines again. That is, I'll extend my nipple to nipple all the way to the bust and come down by 1 inch and reconnect my dart. So just like I said, I marked my nipple to nipple, connected it, come down by 1 inch, and I will go ahead to connect this all the way down, and I will be connecting on the other side also. So this is just to go ahead to correct the mistake I made earlier. And after I'm done connecting this, you want to start inserting your measurement. So I'm going to go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4, add my sewing allowance, there's no dart there, mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake and add my sewing allowance, mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake and add my sewing allowance. Go ahead to mark my hip circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace and add my sewing allowance. Now I'll just go ahead and connect my pattern all the way to the lower part this way. And after I'm done connecting this, to create that princess dart effect, I'll come down by 2 inches again and reconnect it, and I'll go ahead to cut this out. For the neckline, I'll come down by 1 inch and connect. So you also want to measure out what you have here, which is 5.5 inches. So after this, I will just go ahead and cut out my back pattern. And if you haven't yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. And after cutting this out now, so next we'll be working on the sleeve. For the sleeve, you need to measure from the front side of your armhole to the back side of your armhole. So after measuring that, you're going to impute your armhole circumference divided by 2. Mine is 8 and I marked that. So next, that's your front armhole to back armhole measurement. You're going to place it on it and divide it by 2. So mine is 4 inches. I added half and marked. So now I'll place my tape at that -5 and I'll mark my chest line, which is 7 inches. To get that is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, and I'll go ahead to connect. So sorry that this part is not so visible because of the lightning showing on the sleeve part. So after cutting out, this is what your armhole sleeve is, and you'll be cutting this on fold also. So after this, I'll just go ahead and cut this out, and you need to cut this on fold also. Now I'll bring another pattern paper, measure the neckline I have here, or you can just use your pattern and draw it out. So the neckline I have here is 9 inches, and after ruling that out, you want to also take the measurement you have here, which is that 8 inches from the front side of your armhole to the back side. So now after taking that measurement, you're going to add it with the back neckline. Our back neckline is 5 inches, remember. So 8 inches plus 3 inches will be giving you 13 inches, and you measure about 13 inches and attach it to the already 9 inches which you have marked, and you're going to rule this out. So if you notice, I marked it in a slanted form. This will enable it to relax better on your neckline. So you can come down by 3 inches from the front collar, or 2 inches depending on what you want to make. Then at that 9 inches point, you come down and then go up a little at the front to create a curve. So from that 9 inches point again, you're going to pick this out, and you're going to extend it all the way and draw this out. So this is the collar, and you just go ahead to cut it as one piece, or if you want, you can divide it into two and rejoin and add. So after sewing your dress, you'll be attaching your collar to the neckline of the dress. So at this point, if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So now this is how you're going to attach it. After sewing your dress, attach your sleeve. So this is the collar part, and you're going to place it this way and then attach the back to it. So see you in our next video. Thanks.